Lord Coe, thank you for joining us. How was your evening tonight at the Golden Tracks?
Fantastic evening, and it was really everything that the evening deserved because it had such great material. The European Championships in Berlin, the best European Championships ever, and athletes that just performed with jaw-dropping expertise.
Dina Asher-Smith has been incredible this year, hasn't she?
I'm supposed to be neutral, I guess, as president of the International Federation, but it was a particular privilege for me to be able to give her the Female Athlete of the Year award. And yes, she was, there are those moments in the career of an athlete where you just don't really lose that often, and she's in that purple patch. Let's keep our fingers crossed that it continues through to Doha next year for the Worlds, and then 2020 Tokyo.
And on the other side of the channel, Kevin Mayer had an amazing year, not so strong in Berlin, but obviously afterwards he more than made up for that.
Well, I suppose that's the challenge of the sport, but in a way that's its innate beauty, that you can go from the sort of vagaries that hit you, and particularly in decathlon. I mean, there are so many different things that can go wrong at any one time, and to have bounced back and broken the world record in such a definitive way tells me, well, first of all, he's going to be around for a long time. Secondly, the points total self-evidently points to the fact that he's the best of all time.
And in terms of rising stars, obviously Duplantis had an amazing year, and Jakob Ingebrigtsen, so some real jewels in the crown for European athletics.
Some jewels in the crown for European athletics, and I think a really sensible decision. You can't split those two. They've had the most extraordinary seasons. They've not just won at junior level, they went on to replicate it at senior level. That's the toughest transition in any sport, and I think it would have been very difficult to have set them apart.
And just finally, yourself, an incredible few years, a roller coaster, and what comes next? Lots of innovation, Doha.
Yeah, the first few years inevitably were about making sure that we survived, and that was clearly the number one priority. The third year was really about starting to implement the reforms and all the safety measures that we put in place. But we also started to transition into what we're really here to do, which is to really improve and continually innovate our sport. We have to be relevant and salient to young people, and that's not going to come because we sort of sit behind desks wishing it that way. We have to be really brave, and sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it isn't. But I thought the Continental Cup this year gave us some great hints as to what we can do to engage new audiences, particularly young audiences.
Did you see the presentation on DNA? Are you aware?
I've seen it a number of times. I joined the European Council meeting in Berlin a few months ago, and Libor took me through that. And I think, look, we should continually embrace new thinking. It's not always going to end up, what you see on the catwalk doesn't always end up in the retail store. But you can see some derivatives, you can see some hints, and that's important.